If websites are like spells, then apps are like cantrips. There's a lot of them out there, but only a few are worth keeping on hand. So today we're looking at 10 apps for tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons, starting with one of the cleanest user interfaces that I've ever seen. This is Mighty Dice. So Mighty Dice is a dice roller or dice simulator. And what you'll notice right away is that the UI is very clean. And right there, floating cosmically in the middle, is this stone D20. Now to roll the D20, you can either tap the screen, which causes it to roll, or you can actually shake your phone and that will do the same thing. And there's actually haptic feedback, so I can feel it bouncing around on the table, which is a really nice touch. But here at the bottom, you'll see all the different die types. And if we want to roll more of one type of a die, all we have to do is take that die, so I'm gonna hold down the D6, and I'm gonna scale it up until I have as many as I need. So let's say 8d6. And now all of these d6s, floating ominously, are now ready to roll. So same thing, we can click the screen and we'll see that they all tumble around on the virtual table. And you see that we have a total of 29. You can add other die types the same way, grabbing and scrolling out from the bottom until you have all the dice that you need, and they're always perfectly arranged like this in a really satisfying way. And you can roll them all together like so. It's honestly really fun. If you had just rolled, your 8d20s, 8d12s, 7d10s, 8d8s, 8d6, 10d4s, and 13d2s, and then accidentally reset something, and you forgot what you rolled, don't worry. You can always go to the log here at the top, and you'll have a detailed breakdown of what you rolled, how many of each type, and what the rolls were within each subcategory. So really, really helpful. But as you might expect in an app like this, because we have this beautiful stone texture, there's probably other ones, right? And you probably have to pay for them. Well, if you go up here to this texture menu, you'll see that there are, in fact, a lot of different D20s out there. Some of these are really classic, just looking like plastic dice, but some of them are really intense, like this molten lava one, and other ones too, like this frost crystal, which actually has like a transparent shell with a core inside. But none of this is behind a paywall. So I was curious how they monetize this, because this is normally where you would find premium skins and normal skins. But if you go to the top, you see that this is actually integrated with the Shop of Many Things, specifically their Ascend dice, which are the levitating dice that they make. And so you can actually go to the Shop of Many Things from here and buy dice. So instead of running generic ads, like for that game with the king who's stuck in the sewer, you know what I'm talking about. Instead, you actually have a relevant ad, which might be polarizing, but I think this works well. It's non-interruptive and probably is a really nice way to cater to the right audience, since this is a dice rolling app. Now, a couple of bonus features here that you should know about. They do have an advantage roller, which lets you roll 2d20s, and then when they roll, they will show you both and then remove the lower one. And then same thing goes for disadvantage. And they also have your 2d10 preset as well. And you can actually toggle on whether it gives a percentage or if it just gives you the sum of 2d10. And finally, if you have a set of dice that you often roll, you can always make a preset. So you can go into the preset, choose how many of each dice that you want. You can name it something like and subscribe. You can choose a skin that goes with this preset every time you use it, like Dwarven Steel, and then save that. And then if you ever need to use this roll, you simply click like and subscribe, and it'll roll this out for you. But if Mighty Dice has one of the cleanest UIs, this next app might have one of the simplest workflows, which is perfect for what it is. RPGen. As you might guess from the name, RPGen is a generator for your role-playing games. And when you open it up, you immediately see a list of things that you can generate. We have NPCs, names, unusual locations, shops, food, items, story, events. You can see it all there. But say we want to generate something like a shop. Well, we're going to click shops. We'll see subcategories from random shop, in tavern, general store, blacksmith, and so on. But let's say that we want a tailor. Well, we click tailor, and then immediately we have a short, concise, generated tailor shop. And it even gives you a basic inventory. Now, if you don't like what you see, you press this D20 icon, it will re-roll it for you. But if you do like what you see and somehow your players immediately become attached to the Hyacinth and Hibiscus tailor shop, then you might want to press this little star here, and that will save it as a favorite. Now, before we talk about the other features that this app has, I just want to say how nice this is for a DM who is using it on the fly. There are no drop downs, there's no filling things out, there's no confirmations, it's just boom, boom, and it's there. However, there are two categories here that I think are worth highlighting. One is the story category, where you can find rumors, bounties, diseases, command words, mottos, and ships. I think rumor is especially nice. Under utilities, you'll find other things like a dice roller, stat rollers, but also a tarot card generator, which will give you the name of the card, interpretations, and usage, which can be nice depending on what's going on in your campaign, and or when your characters inevitably go get their fortunes read at the market. But also, if you find yourself generating the same few things often, you can go back to the hamburger menu, go to template, and you can make a new template. So here we might say roaming caravan. And what we can do is we can add elements to it like NPCs. So this caravan might have several random townies in it. We'll say military protecting the caravan. You can keep adding more, but we'll also add a story element, and this will be a rumor. So this is like what the caravan's heard on the road. And we can also add NPC inventory for when your characters inevitably ask some questions about what these people have on them. Of course, they wouldn't rob them. And then you create the template. And now whenever you go to the roaming caravan, it'll give you a generation of all of those elements right away, which is really, really helpful. But now let me set the stage with an app that I literally use constantly during every session I run. Pocket Bard, which is basically immersive audio made simple. So this is the home screen, and by the way, this is version 3.0, which they just released a couple of weeks ago. So if you've used it before and want to see what's new, now is a good time to check it out. But when you open up the Pocket Bard app, you start by choosing a scene that best matches whatever is happening in your session, such as going into a dwarven kingdom. And here's where you have complete control over the ambiance of your session. So you can set the music to explore, combat, or victory, which is usually just what you play when you're done with combat. So let's try explore, and you can hear the music fade in. And as you can see, we can adjust the intensity of this music with this slider here. There's a soft intensity versus a very high intensity. However, you can also add environmental ambiance. We have crowd noises. It's kind of people talking and chattering environmentally. You have rain. And as you can see, each of these can be set to one of 3 intensities. But you also have things like heartbeats, maniacal laughter, and tension, which is this kind of like thriller psychic sound, which is really good for horror sessions, as well as a bunch of others that you can add or remove to each scene as you see fit. And to add more weight to specific moments or actions, there's also this one-shots panel. So basically these are one-off sounds like an explosion, wood impact, magical sounds, and also sounds of various weapons. Nice. But what's amazing about this is that if you're going to change locations or music or anything else, it's going to be automatically seamless. So listen, we're going to go from the Dwarven Kingdom to something else. Let's check out the artifact. Now listen to this. See how there was that subtle transition? And now we have this really ominous music. Actually, that's kind of creepy. Let's try something else, maybe something more tame, like, village would be wonderful. And there we go. You hear that transition to this nice, lovely village soundtrack. Now, I love Pocket Bard so much that I reached out to them about making this video possible through a sponsorship. And thankfully they agreed, so here's the last thing that they want to make sure that you know. So Pocket Bard is entirely free to download for both iOS and Android, coming with a total of 17 fantasy scenes available for free. So there's absolutely no reason not to go download it and try it out for yourself. And if you end up wanting more, you can always join Pocket Bard Open Worlds for just $6.99 a month. So prep less and play more with Pocket Bard using the link in the description. And thank you to Pocket Bard for not only sponsoring today's video, but also providing the music that you hear throughout. But now let me paint the picture for you. And I mean that in a literal sense because this is Portrait Works. So Portrait Works is a character art maker. And this is actually one of 2 character art makers on this list, but they are so different from each other that I felt like I had to include both because they serve very different purposes. So this one, as you can see, makes this kind of portrait style headshot of your character. So this is one that was kind of generated in. You can scroll through here to see different options, like different variations of the character you have. If we go to customize, we can then choose, like, for instance, a hat, and you'll see different hats available in here. You can also go through and choose a lot of different subcategories, but we simply can't get into all of this. We go to facial hair, get a beard going there. Beards are always nice. I'm not biased. And you can continue this way until you have the character you like. And as you can see here, the workflow is basically choosing some preferences and then choosing from options below. And you iterate on this until you have the portrait that you want. Now, the use case for this in my mind is certainly virtual games over Discord or Roll20, where you need a character token, avatar, or portrait. Somewhere where you really want to see the face, and especially if you like this kind of style, it's a perfect fit. It's also an easy way for a DM to throw together some details for an important NPC that might come up in the story. And if you go to the gallery, you can see a lot of pre-made ones or maybe randomly made ones. And these can be really cool too, just to pull inspiration. Oh my gosh, look at that guy. That guy's awesome. But you can go through, and this is a great place to say, okay, This is the NPC, you can describe them that way. Just a nice resource to have in your pocket. But you don't always want character art, sometimes you want weapon art. And that is what this next app is specialized for. This is Instant Armory. And Instant Armory was originally designed to make fantasy weapons. But as I'll show you in a second, it's since expanded to include a lot of things that you might not expect. Now, the way this works is very straightforward. You can cycle through different components of whatever weapon you're making. So this is a sword, so I can cycle through different types of blades. I can go through different types of hilts. And in all of this, you can change the major and minor colors to kind of fit what you want. Go to the handle and do the same thing until you have the sword that you want. You can name the sword. We're going to call this a cursed sword, and it's going to be called the game. Sure, I won't regret that at all. And then once you have the weapon you like, you can go to export and export it as an item card, as just the item, or as a full equipment card. With the equipment card, you can write a description up here, and then down here you can also modify the actual stats for the weapon, which is great for sharing homebrew with your players or just posting homebrew online. But here is what they've added over time to make some really cool additions. Because not only can you make martial weapons, but you can also make potions, instruments, scythes, spell books, jewelry, and then one of my favorites, which is simply spells themselves in the form of these spell symbols. So this unlocks a lot of opportunity for people who like to homebrew making spells. Now you can make a symbol to go along with it, but this is also a great way just to make emblems for anything else in game that you might want. Instant Armory is free, but as you probably have already noticed, there are options for unlockable DLC elements, and you can always go to purchase those to support this app and also to get some cool artwork for your weapons. But speaking of spells, we now have an app called Spells 5th Edition. You'll never guess what it does. Yes, this is one of the apps on this list that is very specific and therefore very useful. This app simply has all of the spells in Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. And while you can create your own characters and you can make your own custom spells, I think the greatest use case for this app for me is simply being able to quickly and easily reference the spells that I need to reference. I don't think a single session goes by where I'm not looking up a spell that a player is using just to make sure that we're talking about it in the same terms, to make sure we both understand how it works. And this is a great, easy way to do that. So that's a good one for all of your spellcasters out there and all of your DMs. Next, we have 5th Edition Character Sheet. And just like 5e spells, you can certainly guess what this is used for. Now, this one's actually been recommended a lot, and I think a lot of people keep this one on standby. And when I first looked at it, I wasn't so sure I had the right app, but once I started digging into it, I understood why. Looking at this, you can see that we have a very, very basic character sheet for D&D 5th Edition. You have your basic stats here, and you can just simply swipe through, seeing everything you have for your character. Really, really easy, no frills, simple. And what I like about this too is the process of making your character. So if you want to make a new character, we can go to New Character, and the way it runs is simply through a series of options. You can choose your race. I'm going to go Goblin, as I always do. You can choose your class. With your ability scores, you can roll your own, or you can use simple or point by or roll within the app. You have your options. You can go through and select the skills that you need based on the class that you are. Keep going until you finish creation, and now you have your new character, who we'll call Ralph. And so there we have Ralph. And for the same reason that the 5e Spells app is good, this one is also good if you're playing 5th Edition D&D, because it's simple, no Wi-Fi required, no distractions, just the information you need right here on your phone. Now, I said there was a second character art maker on this list, and we've now come to that. This is ReRoll. Now, we've seen ReRoll before on this channel. I showed it off in my previous video about websites for games like D&D. But of course, ReRoll has an app too, and it's a great one to have on hand for all the same reasons. Now for ReRoll, when you make a character, we're gonna make, let's say, just a character art only in this case. You go through a very video game style character creation process. So we can choose our race. I chose Goblin last time. Let's do Living Construct. Pretty awesome. You can choose a masculine or feminine body, but we're going to go forward with this and change all of the hues and tones of the character. It's a robot, so let's name it, not Jarvis. Can't do that legally. Larvis. Perfect. This is Larvis. Once we have Larvis made, we can go to the inventory and equip Larvis with everything that we might want him to wear, like this helmet, these pants, they're shorts, actually. We can give Larvis a little companion, like a penguin. Larvis and his penguin. Some shoes. You get the idea. You can go and equip Larvis with all of these items. A shimmering blade with which he protects the penguin, and an appropriate base, something frosty, as Larvis is the protector of penguins. And there we have it. Now we have Larvis, a cool, pixelated and stylized character art of your character that you can update over time as your character gets new equipment. This one's just a lot of fun to play with. I like making these for my NPCs as well, especially ones that are recurring, just to give my players a better idea of what they look like without having to lock down every single little minuscule detail. ReRoll is awesome. ReRoll is fun. Check it out. So we've had the 5e spell app. We've had the 5th edition character sheet, but now we're looking at something akin to both of those, but not quite the same. This is the 5th edition companion app. And if those other apps serve very specific purposes, this one is more the jack of all, master of none. Because in this app, not only can you find references for spells, and not only can you make a character, but you can also look up other things and do other functions that you might need as a DM. For instance, here you can search through all of your feats, races, classes, backgrounds, all the information such as that. You can also create characters and build a party, and you can run initiative by simply adding monsters from which you can easily scroll or you can search, do Master Thief. Then we can start combat. And once combat starts, we have this really simple UI, next turn, next round. Next turn, next round. We can keep track of everything with the monsters in play, and then when we need to, we can deal damage or heal them as needed. Like I said, you can also create a character. This has its own character sheet and character builder. And even if you leave the combat, you can always resume it using this button at the top. So this is really just a tool belt of resources you might need as a DM if you're running 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Now, I know a lot of these have been very specific to D&D, but this last one is kind of the opposite, because this is the one on the list that is not specifically made for tabletop role-playing games at all. This is a drawing app. Specifically, this is Sketchbook. Now, Sketchbook, of course, is just one of many drawing apps. This one just has good reviews and one I found to be very simple to use. The reason I include this in this video is that it's almost always good to have something on hand that you can easily draw and reference for your players. And of course, you might have pen and paper. That is king. But if you need to send something to your players so that they remember, or so that they can see it on their phone, or if you're not playing in person, this is a great resource to have. A lot of times we'll have problems where we can't quite visualize the room we're in, and you're trying to describe where the doors are, or maybe you'll have an artifact. You're trying to describe exactly what's going on with it. I don't know why my artifact's like a little alien guy now. Obviously, drawing is not my strong suit. But having some kind of drawing app on hand can be really, really handy for any of the above, especially if you play in theater of the mind and you want to outline the dungeon or the room that you're in. So this has been 10 apps for role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons. Let me know your favorite apps that I didn't mention in this video in the comments. And if you want to see 10 of my favorite websites, make sure you check out this video next. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it. If you want to see more content like it, please subscribe to the channel. But until I see you next time, have an excellent, excellent day.